All right, we back. I want to thank Butch Palmer for making me all look silky smooth. You know, he been making my hair look good. You know, I'm an old motherfucker, and my hair be gray and shit. He make it look silky smooth and pretty, like I'm a young buck. But I keep this out of naturala, girls. You know that. You know that. So I got my man Brad Crow with me, and I want to talk back about some of this abduction stuff. Now, this particular couple that was being abducted was they were being abducted, taken onto the same ship, made to have sexual intercourse. They produced a child. They manipulated that child's DNA in the womb somehow. They kept taking her back. Now, there's these kids called star seeds, indigo children, stuff like that. And those kids are shifting our paradigm with the way that they're thinking and the power that they possess.
Like the giants from the Anunnaki deal in Genesis, right?
You know, right? So basically, do you what's your theory on, or do you have any thoughts on how that process might be going down? Because, you know, that's the only thing I have this theory. All right, what if your soul is a key and the DNA is a lock? Or no, the DNA is a lock and your soul's a key. Mm-hmm. All right, so I said that already. That's the first. Anyway, so if I was a cat in the last life, this is an example. If I was a cat in the last life and I was able to move past that cat into a higher being, soul being, so the DNA sequence would change. So that DNA sequence you can't reverse. You can't go backwards. So I can never be a cat again. So once you get to a higher level of consciousness, you can't go backwards. That DNA sequence, there's a lot of our DNA that hasn't been turned on yet. So as we move along, that same DNA sequence, things get unlocked. And
like
so
the evolutionary process.
Yeah. And so I believe in evolution. And
I do too, believe it or not.
But do you think that they could mess with us and kind of change things around like that?
Yeah. I mean, I think anything's possible. But
I mean, it's a crazy story.
You look at abductions, and here's how I look at it. Again, with the traveling, I mean, we're so far apart, and I want to touch on the Hubble thing in a minute. But with these beings,
face towards the camera more.
Oh, I keep forgetting we're on video.
Yeah, video.
You look at the star travel taking way past our lifetime. So we know that the people, if they're extraterrestrial, they're using way advanced technology to do that. Why would they travel so far to do a biological experiment on a creature that's so similar to them? Why? That just, to me, that's...
I just answered that, though. If they're manipulating the DNA in order to change our paradigm and to shift the direction that we're going somewhere.
Way, or do you think they're doing it for shits and grins?
I think they're doing it in a positive way, because I think that they value our planet. And that we might be. It's very possible for us to destroy the planet, especially with Fukushima and shit like that. Fukushima and Fukuyamas and all them shit.
It could be our way for our Creator to keep us where we need to be, without Him directly doing it, sending His servants to do it, His angels, or whatever you want to call them. You know, it's mind-boggling, man, because there's so much out there, and I'll listen to anything as far as conspiracy is concerned. Some of it's way out there. And that's what I struggle with.
Who killed JFK?
Trying to put it all together. I think that Oswald was a participant, but I do feel like he was set up. He did want to kill. Yeah, he's a patsy.
Patsy.
he I think he fired a shot, but it's clear that JFK is getting shot from multiple directions. He had a lot of people angry at him. It's no shock that he was killed. To me, after
he was the last president that actually tried to use his power.
Right.
They were like, motherfucker.
And this
just because it says that on paper doesn't mean.
This is when within 15 or 20 years of us being the government knowing what's going on with these visitations. And I think, they say when Truman got the news, or Eisenhower got the news, and I think Truman as well, they were very depressed for weeks. Jackie Gleason was a huge ufologist. When President Nixon and he were good golfing buddies, and anyway, Nixon shows up to Gleason's house that night with no security detail and just in a regular car. They go to the local base, and the guards are like, they know who he is, but they're just really blown away. They let him in, and he takes Gleason to where, I guess, not Area 51, but the creatures that had crashed at Roswell. And Gleason's wife was quoted. She said he came back home that night, would not eat for a solid week, would not sleep. He was in a complete stupor, and he just kept saying that they need to know. The people need to know. They shouldn't be keeping this secret. They need to know. So there's clearly something in place, something coming.
That's fucked up that Nixon can do that and just be like,
it couldn't happen nowadays. I mean, but there's a big secret that we're not being let in on. Either it's of the religious persuasion, or it's the fact that there's aliens out there and they're doing, like you said, they're controlling us. But the most mind-blowing thing that I've ever seen and I've researched is there's a picture from the Hubble telescope called the Hubble Ultra Deep Field. And this picture was taken over the course of 24 hours. They pointed it at a black part of the space that we cannot see with our naked eye or regular telescopes. And over 24 hours, and it took the same picture in the exact same spot. And it was the size of a postage stamp, looking up in the sky. Well, over 24 hours, the picture got better and better and better, okay? When you look at it, it looks like a bunch of stars, just covered in stars, because the first picture was not that good quality, and that's another thing. But as you look at it, you realize there's over 10,000 galaxies in this postage stamp size square looking into black space. Okay, now think for just a moment what that means. If you're any good at math, and that's just what we can see over the entire Earth, of the sphere of Earth. You're looking out, you get this many galaxies. Dude, and we think we're all that. We are nothing. We're not even a speck of dust in this bin, bro.
Yeah, really.
And to me, that's just amazing. It's awe-inspiring. It's and that's and they say these galaxies are in clusters, and those clusters are super clusters. And dude, we don't even know anything about our own galaxy. All we know is we're in it. Yeah. That's it. That's all. No science to tell you straight up. They don't even know what's at the center. They just think it's a star-making furnace. But that's the creator, man. He this is his show, and I think we are that. Like you were saying, we're God, we're everything, man. When we die, we go out. That's why they call it heaven, because I think we literally go to the heavens. We are able to go through space and time at will.
Yeah, you can be everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
And we choose. I think some people choose to come back, like you're saying. I think there's something to reincarnation. Maybe you want to come back as a cat. I've always envied cats, Woody. You say you can't go backwards. I'd love to come back as a cat and lay there. It's a fireplace.
I think that we have to go up through these type things, maybe be different planetary animals, because I have these strange dreams all the time, and it's from an animal point of view, and it's so real. I'm like, whoa, maybe I was an animal before.
Right.
Maybe I was that animal before. But then also you got the years that they live and how time is perceived by those animals. We don't know exactly how it's perceived. Mm-hmm. And so that one dream could be that whole life memory of that animal.
Absolutely. I think we do what we have to do till we get it, till we get our creator, what he's trying to tell us, and it all comes down to unconditional love and acceptance. And
acceptance.
That doesn't mean being a straight up liberal necessarily.
The acceptance of every situation, because when you try to control something that you have no control over, it will make your life a living hell. It'll make you miserable. And that was probably the hardest lesson that I've learned this go around anyway, as far as my soul's journey goes in this realm here. I realized that, first off, forgiveness is not for the person or the thing or the situation that you forgive. It's for you.
Absolutely.
Because you remember I had that situation when my sister was raped some years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And I held that grudge against that person for so long that it weighed me down physically.
It eats you alive.
Yeah, from the inside out. And there was one day I was thinking about it, and I had an emotional and physical reaction to it. And I was so angry, and I remembered forgiving that person, and I remembered the feeling. It literally made me high.
Absolute joy.
I felt like a huge weight had just been lifted off my back.
And that's the secret of life, dude. People overthink it, man, but it's about doing not necessarily doing your thing, because that sounds a little luciferic, do what thou wilt, but to be able to forgive and roll on. It's like you said, it's intoxicating.
Even forgiving yourself is important.
That's hard.
Like forgiving yourself, because we're self-domesticated animals. I love this book. Oh man, you'd love this book. It's called The Four Agreements. Have you ever heard of it? Mm-mm. It's called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's a thin little 2.5 hour read, man, and it will change your fucking life. The Four Agreements are: never make assumptions. Never use your word impeccably. Never use it for black magic. Only use it for good things, lifting people up, and white magic,
Right.
Never take anything personally, which is a huge one. And then
I suck at that.
Then the last agreement is always do your best. Okay, so your best, you got to understand, is going to be different from day to day, depending on your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your surroundings,
right,
what you have to work with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So your best from day to day is going to change, but you always do your best on that day. I always try to do one thing that gets me closer to my goal every day. One little thing gets me closer to my goal every day. Mm-hmm. And if I'm able to do that, then I feel that day has been a productive day, and it's a good day. And so I'm trying more and more to live in the moment, but not taking anything personally. Huge change for me. That enables me to have more love and compassion for dumbasses.
And
I can suffer fools a lot easier. And then also not assuming things. Like, for instance, if my girlfriend was gone until 2 o'clock in the morning, she said she was going to be back at 11. And my mind can make up all kinds of stories to fuck with me and say, oh, well, maybe this is happening, maybe this is happening. Well, that whole time that my mind has been playing tricks on me, my stress level's up, my physiology is changing. Mm-hmm. I can't, I'm living in a hell in that moment in time. I'm not living a quality life. And then she comes home and she's like, oh, yeah, such and such and such. It was no big deal. And you're like freaking out for nothing. So it's little things like that, and assumptions of what people may be, their character and stuff like that. I don't like to do that either.
No.
Or living on the opinion, judging the people from the opinions of other people. I don't like that shit either. I get
so upset myself if I judge somebody and I'm wrong, or just judge in general, because it's not good to do. I've been wrong many times, and I've gone back to the people and say, I judged you when I first met you,
and
told them
what I thought, and
it just shocked them. They're like, "Oh, I can't believe it." I said, "But I was wrong, and I'm here to tell you." And you know what?
I've had somebody just recently do that to me.
That tells people that you, that number one, that you're honest and you have integrity. Because why would you admit? There's no reason to admit it except to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
But and sometimes when you make assumptions, you're right. But that's not for us to decide.
Right.
But it's
well,
wild.
Like now I'm able to kind of try to be more of the ultimate observer in the back of my mind, and my thoughts. Sometimes I actually observe my thoughts, and I think to myself, "You were a silly thought, you little silly." And so I treat them like they're like kids playing in a sandbox,
Right.
And I laugh at them and I tell them they're silly, and
you can grow from it and be better and make better decisions, and that's what evolution is, and that's what the higher consciousness is, and that's what we're trying. I think there's a little more to Buddhism that believes that, but I'll tell you, man, all the basic teachings are there with each religion base, and maybe God came to each people as he needed to, and maybe he chose Christ as the last one. I don't know, but I tell you this, Wood, when people struggle with their religious thoughts, or people get mad about, like you said earlier, if they're truly what they say they are, you don't get mad or angry at somebody. You just want to help educate them. I saw a thing on the site the other night, and this guy just really went off on the Bible, and he was being very specific about stoning. Everything he talked about was in the Old Testament, and so I just made a comment. I normally don't get in religious fights with people because it's futile at times, unless they're truly opening their mind.
Well,
and this guy, I told him, I said, "Man, you don't." I said, "You just don't understand." I said, "I respect your opinion, but I'm a Christian. I listen to Tool because they have issues with Christianity as well. I think Maynard's got a personal thing. Anyway, I said, "You just don't understand." I said, "I know how you feel. I don't like it, but I love you." And just because I'm this doesn't mean I think I'm better than you. I just think I'm a little more educated than you as far as what is and isn't the being.
Right. Well, my thing is these days I don't really like literally you could say anything to me, stupid, right? Stupid shit, and then I could be like, yeah. Now, like you could say, yeah, the sky is really red today. And I'll be like, really? It's red? And you'd be like, yeah. And I'll be like,
let me get some of that, man.
yeah, I'll be like, yeah, it's really red today. Because I don't feel like the argument is worth it. I mean,
picking your battles is part of growing up, isn't it? But it feels good.
There is no right and there is no wrong. Now, the other day I had a girl tell me, what about rape? Rape isn't right, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, what kind of rape are you talking about? I mean, there could be a mental rape, they're raping of the land, raping of your house, or raping of your business.
I think all that is, when you talk the sexual nature, I think it's people giving their animalistic caveman, whatever procreation do it. They go about it.
If we were in an evolutionary state, would you agree that we're probably like right in the middle, where we're half spiritual creatures and half animal creatures, and half of us wants to do animalistic instinctual things and half of us wants to stop and
right.
But the only thing that makes us different from animals is that moment where we can think in between. We have that moment where we can decide how we're going to react to our stimulus. Now, I'm going to have to go ahead and end this day, and I had a real awesome time, and the time passes by really, really fast. But this has been episode 14 of the Soulcast, and we've had a lot of fun today, and we'll see you next week, y'all. Peace.
Think for yourself.
That's right. Think for your damn self.
The same, because you have been listening to the Soulcast with your host, Happy Bones. We'll see you next week. They deceived and they did discovered. We've been deceived and this was discovered. Maybe I don't wake up and I discovered. Everybody wants to